Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Beat the Sugar Life live Facebook. I kind of entitled this one "My Life Addicted to Sugar." We're going to be talking a little bit about my whole experience with being a diabetic for many years. I've also, of course, got alongside of me. I guess she could almost start becoming my co-host at this point, but Deb Saunders is with me. Good evening, Deb. Welcome.
Hi.
Great. So we're gonna have some great information tonight. We're gonna talk about insulin resistance. We're gonna talk about some of the diseases out there that are caused by insulin resistance. At the same time, we're going to talk about a natural protocol that actually is, I call it saving people's lives right now. Wouldn't you say that, Deb?
Absolutely.
Absolutely saving people's lives right now because of what it's doing. It has changed my healthy life around. And one thing that's really great about it, and you'll learn during this whole broadcast, is that basically it is a natural remedy, not literally remedy, but a protocol. And it's also a money guarantee protocol that if you don't have any results in 90 days, this company is so great that they'll actually give you your money back. And you go out there and look at all this stuff, right, Deb?
Yes.
All these little things that are out there about we'll get rid of this, we'll get rid of that, we'll get rid of your diabetes. You try it, and trying to get any money back, there's no guarantee on it. And this is where it's great about Unicity and the Feel Good program is that you're going to see if it doesn't work for you, then Unicity is going to say, okay, it didn't work for you. There are some things that they require, and we'll talk a little bit about that when it comes to the app, which is just really an app that's keeping track for you, that you're just keeping track of when you're doing different things and all that. And so it is great. Like I said, I can't say enough about it, but we're going to kind of talk about insulin resistance, and I'm going to let Deb talk a little bit about this because she's a little bit more experienced. If I call her an expert, she'll look at me and say, no, I'm not, but she's a little bit more experienced at the science of this. So Deb, I'm let you go ahead and take over, talk a little bit about the science and what insulin resistance is at that point and the diseases that it's causing.
Of course. Thank you.
Yep.
How many of you right now have seen someone grow up and they have the back pain, the neuropathy, they have inflammation, they have the body fat, the diabetes? You have to have insulin resistance for 5 to 10, 15, 20 years before you even get to see these symptoms reside. The skin tags, they probably told you were hereditary, right? The type 2 diabetes, you've been told for years that it's just your dad had it, your mom had it. It's a lifestyle thing that you have to deal with because they had it. Genes, right? That's what we all been told. So insulin resistance is when your cells, you start having, Rex where it says beat the sugar life. How many of us start having sugar? And if you say, hold up, I don't have a lot of sugar, the carbohydrates convert into sugar in your body anyway. We have a lot of sugar in our body. The human body is only meant to handle 1 teaspoon of sugar at any given time. And we eat more sugar by lunchtime than our ancestors had in 1 year. Think about that. When you look at a Starbucks drink, you're looking at that nice liquid. I want you to actually wake up and think, that's got a lot of sugar that I'm not seeing inside of it. And it's got more than that 1 teaspoon our body can handle. Our modern day food environment has drastically changed. And so our cells act differently than what we used to have 150,000 years ago. When you start developing insulin resistance, we are eating the highly processed carbs, sugars, highly inflammatory seed oils that our bodies don't like. Well, we don't see the immediate problem happening. So just like if you do a science experiment, you see something kind of a reaction happen right then and there. Well, we don't see or feel this reaction happen right away because there's no alarm system for your body to say, or flashing lights to say, hey, this is something that's going to lead to insulin resistance. Our bodies tell us slow and subtle signs. So 10 to 15, 20 years, we start to develop. And all the while, you have normal glucose, like normal blood sugar, and everything looks fine. You keep repeatedly going into your doctor saying, I don't feel good. And it's not their fault. No shade on doctors, but they're not taught to chase insulin and ask you about a fasting insulin test to do a bigger picture of your metabolic health. They're taught to chase glucose. Like I said, it's not their fault. But when you have insulin resistance, if I'm going to explain this very, very simple, we eat the foods that have a metabolic impact on us. So what happens is you have your cell, right? Insulin is your master hormone, but you're saying, wait, Deb, I was taught that's only for type 1, type 2. Hold up. This is a master hormone that every single individual has, and it has a direct effect on every single cell in your body. And if this is the part of the life where you really want to get it, like the simplest part of this explanation, when insulin is high, FAT will be present and skin tags will grow. Why? Insulin is a fat storing hormone and it's a growth hormone. When insulin is low, FAT will go and skin tags will shrink and they will fall off. Have you ever wondered why you're getting that belly pooch? Like I said, you have that the hormone insulin and you have that cell. Insulin comes in, carries the glucose, minerals, nutrients, and vitamins that you have from your food, and insulin will knock on the door to deliver it to the cell. It will unlock it, the healthy cell will open up, and it will receive the minerals, nutrients, and vitamins to be used effectively as energy throughout the body. But when we're doing this with the wrong environment, highly processed carbs, sugar, seed oils, they told you to eat 6 small meals a day because it's supposed to rev up your metabolism, right? Well, that actually leads to insulin resistance because our ancestors did not snack multiple times a day. All this does is it pushes your insulin up higher. So right here, this is where they have everybody focused on calorie in, calorie out. When you have glucose, thank you, Rex. When you have glucose, the blue line, that takes 90 minutes to come back down to normal. Then you have a crash and then you're hangry. The food companies knew this when they first started introducing this kind of eating. So what happens is the master hormone, the purple right there, guess what? This stays elevated for 3 to 4 hours. So if you're eating every 2 hours or you're eating the meals that are not best for our metabolic health, it stays elevated. And that's only if you're metabolically healthy. If you are metabolically inflexible, you have insulin resistance because your cells become resistant to the insulin, less insulin sensitivity, it stays elevated from 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 hours or longer. That becomes the new normal high for this hormone, which means it's harder for it to come back down to normal. This happens gradually. Like I said, slow signs. So your master hormone is saying, okay, well, the cells aren't taking in this insulin anymore, or the glucose. So what are we going to do now? Okay, well, I'm elevated. They want me to keep working because if you think about it, if insulin is low, it's asleep, right? It's not going to grow things and grow fat. But when insulin is awake and it's on, elevated, right? It's going to say, okay, I need to do my job. The cells aren't taking it, so I'm going to shove it everywhere else. I'm going to grow belly fat. I'm going to grow things because that's what I really love to do. They're keeping me elevated. So I'm going to grow and I'm going to start belly fat. And then years later, we're not seeing all this stuff go around and happen. So 10, 15, 20 years down the road, you've had skin tags, you have hypertension. And this is where we also, because your master hormone is trying to shove all that glucose everywhere, it shoves it in the organs. That's the last place truly it wants to shove it. And then your body says, I'm sorry, I have to shove it in the organs. And this is where we start to develop non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So then you go to your doctor and they say, I'm sorry, Bob, you have hypertension, type 2 diabetes. This is a lifelong problem you have to deal with. Insulin resistance is a lifestyle dietary disease, which means you can reverse it. You can change from your history and you can get healthy. It just depends on the consistency. The outline has been where we can slip into metabolic dysfunction so easily. My question is, how many of you right now have a food or a carb or sugar addiction? How many of you have that? And how many of you would admit it?
I can tell you I did,
Yeah.
and it really doesn't leave you either because, just walking through Costco yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard for somebody like me to walk past all that stuff and not want to grab some to take home with me, especially Halloween time where we got all the candy on the shelf right now. But just the bakery section, as you go through that bakery section and you start seeing all the wonderful things that are there, the cookies and all that. And being a diabetic for 32 years and not being a good controlling diabetic, it was kind of like, I'll just eat, no big deal. I eat what I want, and then I'll just take some insulin, right?
Mhm.
Because that's kind of how we're trained a little bit. Like, well, you can take care of it with insulin. That's all you've got to do. And that's exactly what was happening with me. And now you have the difficulty, just like somebody would be, and sugar is a drug. I don't care what they say. It is a drug. I'm having the same kind of withdrawals that somebody would have who was taking something that was a narcotic or something like that. And I'm having to walk past that stuff, and you're having to watch other people eat it. And I told you the story yesterday that I'm walking through, and they have all those people that are sitting there giving samples out, right? We talked several times about how we eat and how they've trained us to eat over the years. The American diet is a bunch of bunk. We know that.
Yep.
How diabetics have been taught to eat, just like you were showing all the graph there that was showing the spikes and everything, because first thing they told me was eat smaller meals during the day or throughout the day, and then eat snacks in between. And I was getting nothing but those giant glucose peaks all the time. And you can see it. And then you go in, you put the insulin in, you're like, you expect a immediate response, but there's not an immediate response. It's just like you were talking about. It sometimes takes hours. And then what do some diabetics do? Well, that didn't do anything. So I'm going to give myself some more insulin, to try to bring it down even quicker. And so anyway, walking through Costco yesterday, I see them doing the little samples, and I'm thinking, that's a sales thing. They're trying to sell the stuff. But then you also think about how the food companies have trained us.
Yeah.
That is this also part of that? Are they giving us that stuff, those snacks within the stores, to make us more hungry so we buy more groceries? Well, what have they always said? Never go to the store hungry, right? Never go to the grocery store hungry, because you're going to wind up buying more food.
True fact.
And I think that's something that that happens a lot, is that they have come up with ideas about how they do that, at that point. So I'll let you continue, but I wanted to kind of bring that in a little bit because I thought that was unique to go around. That's what I start looking for. I start looking for, like, what are they doing to try to get me to eat sweets again, right? Because I'm their worst customer right now. They don't like me at all right now. Okay, because I'm staying pretty much away from it. But so I'll let you go ahead and continue with the insulin resistance, because that's exactly what I had and didn't know for years, and doctors didn't tell me at all. So go ahead with what you were talking about.
Thank you. So, we have doctors coming to us now, physicians saying, I only get, maybe if we're lucky, like, I've had 20 something years of medical education, and I only had maybe 2 to 4, maybe 10 hours, if that, of lifestyle dietary education. So like I said, it's not the doctor's fault. They don't know a whole lot about it, but I'm hoping that we have them start transitioning to that, because it is the first line of defense on metabolic dysfunction. 93% of US Americans have these symptoms, but what are they taught? Just to move more, eat less, calorie in, calorie out, eat the 6 small meals a day because it's going to rev up your metabolism.
Right.
All of these things. Realistically, you guys, and I know this might hurt a few people's feelings, but your body doesn't measure calories.
Right.
It says, okay, so this cookie in here, what can I use this? Is this a long-term energy that I can use to feel sustained? Or is it a fast-acting energy that I'm going to soak up in like an hour? That's what your body's really saying. And when we say, well, for first-time fasters, individuals say, well, nothing's happening. I'm doing the 16-8 method, and I can't see, I'm a plateau. Are you eating every single day at the same time? Your body is smart. So when your body senses that we have enough calories already, like, because it doesn't actually count them, okay, well, we have enough sustained energy, so we're going to store this in the back for later. Kind of like what I love that Jim started using an analogy as a bear. Do you guys see bears rummaging, looking for food in the winter? No, because they stored all that excess energy as food. But that's what we're doing all the time, and our bodies don't need to do that. We were hunters and gatherers over 150,000 years ago. So eating the 6 small meals a day, metabolically speaking, that's really not working in our favor, but they're telling us it is. You see where we're going? And even the commercials, they did testing on our pleasure centers to make sure that we respond, like Rex said, pop, sizzle, crunch, taste. How many of your, is your mouth water after you watch a commercial?
Yep.
Do you remember how that chip tasted, how the ice cream melted in your mouth? And if you guys tried to actually burn an Oreo lately, it's really hard to burn an Oreo. Do you want to know why? Because it's highly processed crap.
Yep.
Standard American food.
Right.
So it has to, all these little things of eating the 6 small meals a day drives up insulin resistance, and it's a daily small lifestyle habit that we slip into unknowingly. And this happens over years and years and years, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Your body tries to start telling you, are you dealing with the skin tags? Like I said, the belly fat, the chronic fatigue. Have you guys been told that or thought that getting up using the restroom multiple times a night is normal? That's not normal. That's not a sign of aging. That's your body trying to scream at you, hey, I need to dump all the sugar out of the body, and I'm going to get up, make you wake up and go get it out.
Right.
It's just like sleep apnea.
Yep.
Your body is trying to tell you in silent ways. And I mean, we know we have sleep apnea. We've been diagnosed with it, but we don't really know the real problem with it. Just like PCOS for women, polycystic ovarian syndrome. You start getting the pains and all the other things associated with it. It's insulin resistance of the ovaries. It's that simple. It doesn't have to be anything hard for an explanation.
Right. And it really is truly amazing how many things are caused by insulin resistance. I mean, like you said before, insulin is definitely a life hormone. But too much of it is going to cause us damage because that overflow has to go somewhere.
Yep.
And when it does, it goes into your muscles. It goes into a lot of places within your body that just causes you problems. It goes into nerves. Okay. And it starts to cause problems with neuropathy. That's, I suffer from neuropathy. And that was probably one of my first signs that I was diabetic, was that I got neuropathy and couldn't walk on my legs, walk on my feet. That was the first thing. That was a warning sign right then. And I had noticed the tingling. I had noticed all those things and just didn't think about it, and as the symptoms keep happening, you finally get to a point that I lost a ton of weight within like 3 weeks. I lost a ton of weight and, something's up, but once again, you ignore it, and I finally went in when my feet were so bad that I couldn't walk. And that's when they did my blood sugar and they found me with over 500 blood sugar. And, I love the doctor. He goes, well, you're diabetic. And I wanted to go, well, no crap.
Right.
At that point. But a lot of us find out that way. We don't look at those warning signs that are given to us. I would have never known about skin tags being that, till I actually got into learning more about insulin resistance. So I definitely ignored the warning signs to the point that, I got the way that I got at that point. So yeah, I mean, it's something that is a huge problem all over. A lot of stuff is just caused by insulin resistance. And I encourage everybody to also go do some studying on it and what you can find out. You'll find out that some of the signs you have are insulin resistancy. I went to my doctor and she knew a little bit about it, but not a whole bunch. It's not something that's taught, like you said, Deb. It's not something that's taught. They're taught to go and put a Band-Aid on everything that we do. And that's what all these medicines are for, that we get. I started out with, metformin. I started out with all the medicines they try to give you. And in my case, none of them did any good at that point. And then at that point, they put you into higher. That's where you move. You kind of go from pre-diabetic to diabetic. I don't think I was probably pre-diabetic and didn't know it, right to diabetes. And then the next thing you know, you're on insulin. because that's the progression. They're not looking at, well, what's the core problem here? They're looking at what they can do to try to put that Band-Aid over the symptoms, and it just doesn't work. I was mentioning that earlier to you, and I might as well just bring it up now because I got them behind me, right?
Yeah.
So I put together this nice little table here that's behind me. Let me see if I can get the camera on a little bit better. And I wanted to show this because this has been my life for a few years. Let me get back a little bit here. So what you're seeing here, and most diabetics will go, oh, I know what that is. I know that box. That's all insulin. Okay. And if you look, those are 3-row deeps. That is 90 days worth of insulin right there. Okay. 90 days. Next to it is because, I'm on the pod. So if the pods don't work, and I got to have the pins. Okay. So I got to have those as the backup. So that's a whole thing full of pins. And then the pods are right next to it. Now, the pods have been nice. They're a nice convenience. But I've been put on one of these a day. You know how much insulin one of these holds, Deb? 50 units.
Ooh.
So I was doing over 50 units a day because they wouldn't, they're supposed to expire on your body, right? Because they're out, the temperature, they're supposed to expire. Mine weren't expiring. I was just putting on a new one sometimes during the day. Sometimes I go through like 1.5, because my insulin wasn't coming down.
Right.
And what they would tell me is, well, just give yourself a higher bolus. That's what you keep getting. With the protocol I'm on now, I'm down to probably 2 a week now, and they're expiring. So I'm not doing the 50 units. I can tell you today, I'm lucky if I've done maybe 10 units today of insulin.
Really?
Yeah. Because I'm not needing it. I have a little bit, because I can tell you one thing, being an insulin dependent diabetic is a little bit different than sometimes the type 2 normal ones that take medication, because your body is adjusted in some ways. So getting off the insulin is the hard part. So, I think going from having a A1C of 8.5 to 6.5 is amazing for me. It's taking a little longer to move down more because my body is healing itself. And it's so used to what I was doing every day. So sometimes when you're insulin dependent, it's a little harder, but it's happening. It just is at a slower rate. My body is healing itself. I do see a lot of things that are happening. I mean, from coming from being diagnosed with diabetes, going through all that, then of course, some of the outcome of diabetes is amputations, and I've been through 2. Okay. And it was basically because of the diabetes, ulcers that happen, and then ulcers don't heal. And the first one, they tried to save it. And probably if I'd known about this program, I may not have had the problems with the healing process that I had. They had me doing everything to hyperbaric treatments where they put you in that tube and put you down to different sea levels, every morning before I go to work, trying to get more oxygen into your body to try to get that to heal better, which didn't work for me. We tried that for 6 months in a crow's boot for 6 months, going to work still, on a scooter, not a powered scooter either, one of those, knee scooter things. And then after a while, finding out that there's just not a whole lot they can do. The bones start to get infected. Then you now have the antibiotic overdosing that goes on too, on top of it, right? So not just insulin overdosing, but now antibiotic overdosing, because they do start all these heavy antibiotics on you.
Mhm.
at that point. So the first leg goes. Finally decided, after a year, too much pain. And then it's common, not common, but it happens with a lot of diabetics. If they get one amputation, they sometimes have two. And unfortunately, no matter how hard I tried, no matter how hard I watched, I got another ulcer. You step on something, you might as well know that when you step on something and you're a brittle diabetic like me, you're probably going to be in trouble very, very quickly. So I wound up with the second amputation just being a year apart from each other. And so I had to face all those complications. Now knowing about this protocol and where we're at with that, gosh, I wish I'd known about that, but it just wasn't out there like it is now,
Mm-hmm.
and finding this out, I might still be having both my legs at this point. So, yeah. So I think that's one of the big things about it is I tell people, you got to look at the warning signs. You got to catch things early. And what's nice about the protocol that we're doing is that it is helping solve those problems in many, many people. That's my story. I know you have a story of your own. And why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about your story? Because yours is a huge story too. And I've got some wonderful before afters right here of you somewhere. Here, let me find it. There you are. I know sometimes you're like, oh, you're going to show that one? Ooh. Yeah.
No, you're good.
It's a great story. It's a great story.
So, yeah, we start off like majority of us, we start at some point in our life, we start looking at our metabolic health and we're like, it's not really what I want it to be. We kind of say, well, my family history isn't the best with metabolic health and I'm, overweight, I've got headaches, I've got chronic fatigue. So I did what we all do, right? I went to the doctor because that's what we're trained from a very young age is if you got something going on, it's concerned, go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And I received the standard American care because I was doing the standard American diet. I didn't know that, but what are your symptoms? How long have they been there? Do you have allergies? Do you have interactions? And where's your nearest pharmacy? You guys, really fast, I have a question. Where do they put the pharmacy? It's not there by accident. They want it there because, and if you guys, I'll tell you the bigger picture if I get to that at the end. Okay. So I went to the doctor. Deb, you're 208 pounds. You got a family history of T2. You got chronic fatigue. So we're going to put you on metformin. And not only that, but you have a family history of thyroid problems going on in your family. Your labs are phenomenal, by the way. Your thyroid's fine, but we're going to put you on thyroid medications, health preventative kind of thing. I was like, whoa, first pump the brakes. Your doctor works for you, not the other way around. Right. And you're the one feeling everything in your body. So you're the one who has to live with it. You need to advocate for your body. So I went and got a second opinion 30 minutes down the road. And I was like, can you please do better? He said, yeah, we'll do a full blood extensive panel on you. I was like, thank you. So the blood work came back. He goes, you have IBS and you have candida. I'm like, live with it. I kind of figured, I love the cookies. I'm a baker for Smith's, mm-hmm. I have a carb and sugar addiction. I'm running off of the nice warm sim rolls that I'm pulling out of the oven with the glaze on them, the pumpkin chocolate chip cookies, the French bread. Twizzlers are my downfall. So, I was like, hey, what do you suggest for that? And he goes, well, I'm maybe suggesting the paleo. The reason why we all fail at diets is because we're stripping something away and we're feeling like we're deprived. That's why we fail at diets. We don't feel like it's sustainability, okay? Because how many of us get happy again when you have that thing that you felt was stripped away from you, like that cheesecake, right? Or the cookies, or the chips, or the ice cream, right? So I was like, okay, well, I will try my best, but can you please explain this chronic fatigue? Because I can't keep living like this. I'm living off of 3 or 4 cups of coffee every single day with a nap and a 2 p.m. crash. He goes, yeah, Deb, you actually have low testosterone. I'm like, women can have that? And he goes, yeah, it's actually lower than I'm comfortable with a woman your age at 39 even having. I'm like, oh, well, thank you. How do we fix it? He goes, well, I'm suggesting low testosterone replacement pellets. I'm like, well, how much are those going to be? He goes, oh, those will be about $300 or $400 every 3 or 4 months. I'm like, whoa, for that kind of a price, when am I getting, when will I receive my energy back? Like roughly. He goes, oh, not to about 6 to 12 months down the road. And that's if we can level out your hormones. So right then and there, no apologies. gave up right in the back of my head. I said exactly what we say. You might not say it out loud, but you say it. It's family history. It's old age. I have no choice but to deal with this because dad had it, his dad's had it, or mom had it, her mom had it, right?
Right.
So I gave up. That was March of 2023. Let's fast forward to the end of July in 2023, and I'm scrolling on TikTok like we all do, right? We just entertainment. But instead of someone's live, it was a video. And she said, do you have belly fat? Do you have skin tags? Do you have cravings for salt and sugary foods? Do you have chronic fatigue? Do you have T2 history in your family? I was like, she had her number. So I was like, I'm going to contact her. I want to know what she's talking about. I had a good portion of the symptoms on that list, even some that she didn't even say out loud. So I said, what are you talking about? And she says, it's plants, minerals, and vitamins, and it comes with 90-day money-back guarantee. It has an app that you can log your progress in, and you need to log 50% of your progress in that app. And if you don't, which consistency is key. She goes, if you don't see any difference at all, just get your money back. So I was like, okay, well, first of all, hold up. Low testosterone replacement pellets that were $300 or $400. The metformin, nothing I was ever prescribed came with a 90-day money-back guarantee. And plants, minerals, and vitamins, there has to be something to this because our ancestors used plants, minerals, and vitamins, right? So I decided to do the system, obviously. And I learned along that road, or down that road, so I'm thinking too fast. The difference between a nutraceutical and a pharmaceutical. Right. Pharmaceutical, black box warning, side effects, big harm of the F, the D, and the A, 1 med, 2 med. Have you guys ever wondered why your medication tackle box gets bigger and bigger and bigger every year? Like Rex said, it's a Band-Aid. You cannot effectively treat a lifestyle dietary disease with medications. That's why. So hence the 1 med, 2 med, 3 meds. And if you wonder, well, I've been okay on the meds, but I keep getting a higher dose of medication prescribed after a little bit. That's because it's just a Band-Aid. It's a false sense of security for a lifestyle dietary disease that was brought on with the modern day food environment, but we're not aware. So, like I said, pharmaceutical, black box warning, side effects, 1 med, 2 med, 3 med. Nutraceutical, same mechanism of action, no black box warnings, no side effects, has no contradictions with any medications you are on. This has 5 patents on it, this specific nutraceutical. It works better than the metformin. It has 20 plus clinical studies. I mean, heck, me and Rex are even proof. We have thousands of other individuals that are proof that this works. I mean, to me, my results are amazing. What I want to ask you really fast is, because if you break it down daily, the system is $5.30 a day. My question for you to start kind of thinking about, what do you spend on right now for snacks or junk food for $5.30 a day? What's your go-to in the morning that costs over $5.30 a day? So
Starbucks, right?
Easily. Mine was 3 or 4 cups of coffee every single day, all the time.
Yep.
So just kind of think about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my results of doing the system, I started at August 6th of 2023. Headaches are gone, nocturnal hyperglycemia gone, low testosterone's up naturally, allergies are gone, food sensitivities are gone. I have not been back to the doctors since March of 2023, size 12 to a size 4.
Wow.
I didn't calorie count. I didn't do macros. I didn't feel deprived. I didn't do anything outrageous. I simply follow the protocol as it's designed. So is Rex. You have 1 of these in the morning, 1 of these in the evening after lunch. Right here, you have this fiber. The fiber is what has been stripped out of our modern day food environment. It's what the food companies stripped out in the 1960s to make sure that the food in your pantry and the grocery store shelves stay better, like more, the shelf life is better. It stays longer. How many of you right now would say that you have something in your pantry over a 3-month shelf life or longer?
Right.
You don't have fiber. So then when they had this, and they pulled the fiber, not talking about Metamucil or Benefiber. A lot of people get that mixed up. Metamucil and Benefiber are one single source fiber. You want soluble and insoluble fibers. Why? Fiber, when it's in your food, it has multiple health benefits throughout the body, including heart health. When they started stripping fiber out of the body naturally, guess what happens? All of the diseases for insulin resistance started to have an uphill climb. Heart disease, the #1 killer around the world right now. They also know that when you have fiber in your food, soluble and insoluble fibers, guess what happens? You feel full and satiated. They knew that if they strip the fiber out of the food, we can eat the bag of chips, the tacos, the pizza, the chicken wings, the ice cream, the Dr. Pepper, the Twizzlers, all in one sitting, and we have no problem. And then they come to us, making us think that we're the glutton and we have no self-control. And we have foods that we have access to in the US that are banned in other countries. I want you to think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've talked a lot about how even going to a restaurant, the food order, right? On how we eat, why when you go to a Mexican restaurant or a lot of places, they call them appetizers, right? They're called appetizers. And you look at chips and you look at what chips do to your glucose. So once again, you're eating that, you're spiking your glucose, and then that makes you want more to eat. So that's why you're seeing those served first, because they know you're going to be eating while you're looking at the menu, and then your glucose now spikes and you're like, I'd like that, and that. And you wind up ordering all that. And it's the way that we eat our food, but it's been designed that way. And I don't think everybody understands that it's been designed that way for a purpose. And having your carbs at the beginning of the meal is not necessarily a good thing at all, because it's going to make you spike and it's going to make you want more. Probably one of my biggest things is I love Mexican food. Matter of fact, I probably went 3 times last week, and I work on the road a lot, but I've had to change what I eat there. But it's really funny because I'll be with other people and the big basket of chips comes, and they'll start digging in, and I'm just sitting there, and they're like, why aren't you eating the chips? And I go, and I explain it to them. And then all of a sudden you see them put their chips down, right? And they're like, oh, but nobody realizes that there's more to it than we know.
Right.
One of these stages to our protocol, and I know some people are going to do that. Oh no, I can't do that, because I did too. But part of it is fasting. That's the first thing, is fasting. And I didn't think I would be able to do it. And it was easier than what I thought. It really was. I know you just did a very long fast, didn't you?
72 hour, but that's because I did what we all should do, and we eased into it, baby steps.
Right. It's not something you can do right off the bat. And that's the whole thing is that even though we look at fasting with this program from 8:00 tonight till noon the next day, you can work up to it. You do not have to sit here and do it immediately. I did, because I knew I was going to have to, and I just jumped into the pool that way. But not everybody's going to do that. And I know that's the thing when I've been talking to some people who are like, I don't know if I can fast. You think about the whole thing about breakfast, and everybody, we talk about breakfast and that, what have we heard for years about breakfast? It's the most important meal of the day. And it really isn't. We can do without breakfast. Our ancestors didn't eat till sometimes midday because they had to go out and hunt the food. They sometimes didn't get home till later on in the afternoon. And you know what? They didn't have any of the problems that we have. They didn't starve to death. Okay. No. Only if they couldn't capture anything, but then it was just a longer fast for them at that point.
Yeah.
But doing this, the fast was probably the first thing I thought I couldn't do. But we have something that helps with that. Don't we, Deb?
Yes, we do. Definitely.
Okay. And that is our, you can see me drinking it now, right? Absolutely. And I'll let you talk a little bit about the tea.
So when we have the tea, this is the highly concentrated chlorinogenic acid tea. So what this does is it stops and turns off the food noise. So we are not thinking about food anymore. How many of you, if you stop and think, how often do you think about what's in your pantry for the next meal? How many of you are trying to think of what you're going to have for dinner because you really want to make sure that you leave room for that ice cream at night or the cookies? This stops the food noise so that you are more productive in the things that you are currently doing. This boosts your natural ketones from 60 to 70%. And women, Dr. Mindy Pills, she's about to release a book in December 13th, I believe. And her book is called Age Like a Girl. And in that book, she talks about how women over 40, this is a really good tidbit.
Mm-hmm.
She talks about how women over 40, your brain prefers to run off of ketones versus glucose.
Wow.
Just a little tidbit. So
Yeah.
this helps your body produce ketones naturally from 60 to 70%.
Yep.
What this also does is anyone who's on the GLP-1s, make Wegovy, Mounjaro, semaglutides, no shade, but please know what you're putting in your body. Those have black box warnings and side effects. And when we say plants, minerals, and vitamins, people have been so programmed to go, whoa, 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 whoa. Plants, minerals, and vitamins, really? What's in it? But when you get prescribed the Wegovy, oh, no problem, let's go. You don't
Yeah.
read the whole box. Like, go to the physician's digital desk reference, the pdr.net.
Yep.
Go look at whatever you are currently prescribed and look at the adverse reactions and all that jazz. And you'll be like, holy cow, it's going to wake you up. This right here, this whole protocol is in the pdr.net. This company has 18 all natural nutraceuticals in the pdr.net. Metamucil and Benefiber aren't even in the pdr.net, but yet you can find this in there. So this is an insulin sensitizer. Okay, I want to read you a few more things. So this has no ejections, no side effects, no crash, non-addictive, balances antioxidants, suppresses hunger and cravings, boosts your mood because it has theobromine in it. That thing that you go for, that good feeling when you go for dark chocolate, that's in here. So it also improves strength and endurance during exercise. Have any of you heard of Michael Saunders, the competitive weightlifter? Guess what? He's one of the scientists on this. Not only that, he has had this in a fasted state before he goes to do his competitions, and he's broken a few records doing this before his competitive weightlifting. This also reduces inflammation. How many of you right now are dealing with inflammation, chronic inflammation? This boosts, like I said, your ketones from 60 to 70%. So chlorinogenic acid, I need to tell you guys about the chlorinogenic acid. Decreases weight gain, decreases liver weight, decreases liver cholesterol, decreases triglycerides and fatty acids, relieves insulin resistance, increases insulin sensitivity, has antioxidants in it. It prevents complications from retinopathy, Rex, improves insulin sensitivity, improves blood pressure, extremely sustaining. Okay, so you're having this right before, let's see, so you have this in the morning and after lunch. You're having this Unimate anytime you're not eating food. This helps you forget the food noise, okay? So, and it's 2 of them a day, okay? So that's 60 little sachets. So then you come to your fiber at your heaviest carb meal of the day. Now you can also get this with your HSA or FSA, but like I have a friend who buys 2 boxes of this because she wants the extra protection. She wants to have 1 at lunch and 1 at dinner. Now the protocol says 1 is your heaviest carb meal of the day. So what you have is when I say fiber, people say, whoa, Metamucil or Benefiber. Hold up. Those are one single source. And they are not in the pdr.net, like I said. And I mean, come on, you want it to be validated, right? This is validated. This has been studied by the Cleveland Clinic, the #1 heart hospital in the world. This has been studied by the University of Sydney, the home of the glycemic index, BYU, UNLV, Stanford University, just to name a few. So when you have this, I'm not talking about one fiber. I'm talking about highly viscous 7 to 8 matrix fiber, highly viscous, like I just said. When you activate this with water, the right fiber, it creates a highly viscous gel. So you put it in a bottle, okay, 4 to 8 ounces of water, or if it's in a cup, no ice, room to cool temperature. You stir it. You want it to activate, so you shake it if it's in a cup, a bottle. So when you down it really fast, it has the consistency of orange juice without the pulp. What this does is it goes down into your stomach and it expands. That's where you want it to do this because it turns off the overeating signal naturally in your brain. It feeds your healthy gut microbiome and it starves out the bad bugs. If you have leaky gut, IBS, candida, or gut dysbiosis, this will heal your stomach. And what was that? Metformin? Metformin was a 20-something% reduction in your post-glucose meal spike, 37 to 43%, even greater than metformin, but they're not wanting you to know about it. So this makes you feel better, slows carbohydrate absorption, increases fat burning, promotes healthy blood sugar levels and insulin levels, helps lower LDL, increases HDL, lowers triglycerides, promotes healthy gut microbiome, comprised of fibers, minerals, and nutrients, and it's easy to use.
Absolutely. It's easy to use. I love it when you rattle it all off. It's just great. I got to get that good at it too. But yeah, absolutely. It 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 works. It really got rid of any of the hunger, those growling in the stomach. I don't get that anymore when I'm drinking the tea. If I don't, I do feel it come back, but I grab the tea in the morning. Usually what it is my routine is in the morning, I keep a bottle in the refrigerator ready to go. I mix it up the night before, have it in there ready to go. I pull it out. Sometimes I put some ice with it. Sometimes I don't. Okay. I can tell you that when I get up in the morning and I start the tea, I can already feel the difference. It's not just that, but with what's in it, it's also kind of a mood changer too. That was one of the things that I noticed is that, first of all, energy. I had the chronic fatigue too. I would go out and sit in a chair. I always love telling this story. I would go out and sit in a chair in the afternoon because with my job, I work at home some, and I go out and I'd sit down. You get tired sitting in the office, so you go out and you sit down, and I go out for 2 hours very easily, just boom, lose track of time. And I don't do that anymore. And what I'm looking at it as is I'm getting 2 hours of my life back that I didn't have. I told my boss I'm going to have to find some things to do because I always calculated. And, they talk about power naps, right? Taking a power nap makes it better. Well, this wasn't a power nap. This was like a pass out thing, which because of diabetes, that's what was happening at that point. So with this, I'm feeling that so much better, feeling better, more energy. A lot of things have come back, brain fog is gone. I'd have brain fog and I'd be, I've got to do a lot of different things with my job and it's very multitasking. And I'd be sitting here at times and just lose track of what I'm doing, and now all that's coming back, all that's coming back, all that stuff is going away. All that brain fog is disappearing. And I feel so much better. Now, one of the other things that was kind of a pleasant surprise was I lost weight too. And I was at 220 pounds and people always see me, they're like, well, you're kind of a skinny guy anyway. Did you have to? Well, yeah, according to my doctor, I should have been down a little bit. I went from around 218 to 189 pounds within 60 days of doing this, which is great because, I was always told my weight, what I thought my weight should be was not what they said it should be. And so I've had people when I do conference calls now, they look at it and they can't believe the difference in the way that I looked before, immediately they ask you what you're doing at that point. So one thing that's great about this, as you mentioned, is the cost factor, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody I'm sure on here is going like, how, we talked about $5 a day, but what's the total cost? And, it comes out to $159. If you do it through me, you'll get a nice little discount that takes it to $159. If you go out and you try to go to Amazon or some of these other places that have it, you're going to pay well over $200 for the system at this point. So if you do it through me, you're going to actually get a nice discount, and that discount is good for life. So as long as you use it, you're going to get that discount. And once again, it comes with the 90-day guarantee that you're going to see some changes. And we've seen that. We've seen that with a lot of people. I even have a few testimonies that I brought some slides on that we can kind of look at. And some of these people I know that I don't know them yet. I'm hoping to meet them. But you can see some life-changing things that have gone on with them in the way that they look and what they're down. Their triglycerides are down. They threw away the blood pressure meds. That's one thing I noticed. One thing they do with diabetics is they put you on blood pressure meds whether you need them or not.
Yep.
Okay. I went in the other day with my blood pressure meds, went to my doctor, and my blood pressure was 99/70 something. She goes, "Ooh, we need to get you off those blood pressure meds." Because I really didn't need them, but they were having me take them. So, and I was not, that top number is pretty low, so she took me off of those. When I went in also, as I talked about before, my good cholesterol has tripled. My bad cholesterol has gone down. My triglycerides have probably gone down three times what they were. It's really amazing. And I've had trouble with my triglycerides forever. having me on phenofibrate and some of this other stuff. And folks, as Deb said, go to the PDR and look at what you're taking. Don't blindly take anything. I'm sorry. You should be looking at that. And when I started looking at it, they put you on a statin immediately, right? You're on a statin for cholesterol. And then when you go read about statins, you're like, wait a minute, this says that they cause diabetes. And you're like, wait a minute,
Right.
I'm taking something that caused diabetes. Yeah, okay. I know I've got it, but is it making it worse? So that's why I encourage everybody to go look. That's why it's so great about this protocol, because it is in the PDR.
Yeah.
You can look at it, you can read it, and it you can be educated about what you're doing at this point. It's really a great protocol. I keep calling Deb my savior, but she really is, because if it hadn't been that I was flipping around, and something made me stop on what you were talking about, and that's when everything you said made sense. And so that really helped a lot. So I'm going to actually put up right now in the little ticker area here, my link that will get you the discount, as long as it wants to do it here. There we go. So this is the link right now that will take you straight to my page. When you see it, you'll see referred by. It'll have my name on it at that point, and you can go in and you can subscribe. And it is a subscribable process, because you're going to want to do it every month. You want to keep it up. Now, Deb, here's a question that I get asked a lot is, do I have to do this forever? Will I have to do this forever? We have a lot of people who do, but Deb, you can answer that.
No, you don't have to do this for life. You can learn along your way until you are happy with the results. Obviously, if you go back to eating crap, standard American diet, you can just bounce back to where you were previously. But along this line, you learn healthy lifestyle changes and habits to maintain for life. But I don't know about you, Rex. I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is, but I'm a lifer personally, because this is my new health preventative. I no longer pay a dime for sick care. I have my health back. Like I said, I am about to be 42 next month, and I feel like I'm 21. So I'm personally a lifer.
Absolutely. And that's exactly right, because I think of the medicine, the money I've been paying. And when I talked to my doctor, she was like, well, let's keep you on the same amount right now, just because, first of all, a little bit of naysaying, right? Are you going to stay with it? Stuff like that. So she kept me on that, even though I'm not using it like I was. But yeah, I'm a lifer at this point. I just got the new Apple. Oh, this stuff is great. I mean, it's like drinking it. People ask, what does it taste like, right? And there's a couple different flavors. There's the lemon flavor, which is what I have that I normally do. Then there is, there's the apple spice, which is what I'm drinking now, which is kind of a seasonal thing. Then there's Fierce, if you like gummy, like those cinnamon gummy bears, or those hot, what do they call them, those little round hot
Red Hots or something.
Yeah, Red Hots and stuff like that. I'm not that kind of person that likes that, but if you like that at the same time, you can drink it hot or cold. We are getting into that time of the year where it's starting to get cold. So I've actually had the apple actually warm too, and it's great. It's kind of like a warm cider at that.
Right.
It's really funny, because my wife brought home cider the other day, and she didn't even think about it, right? She didn't even think about it. She brings home cider, and I go, they went to a farmer's market and brought it back. And she goes, I got apple cider in there. And I go, okay, you wasted your money. Now, normally I would have gone and had a glass of it right off the bat, and not just a little glass, but a big glass. Okay. And then my blood sugar would go to like 300 and some. So it's still sitting in the refrigerator, and I won't touch it. But this actually kind of made up for it. Right. So it tastes great. The balance actually, you were talking about balance. Balance has been around for a while. If you want to go back and look at it, some of us remember Rexall drugs when they were actually open in the United States. And this fiber was there then. So that tells you how long balance has kind of been around at this point. So, this is something that is going to be all natural for you. It's something that's going to take care of some issues that you have at this point. When you do this process, you'll get me as your coach. If you want that, I have a couple of people already that have been doing a lot on their own, but will call me and talk to me a little bit about what's going on and where they're at this point. So you'll have somebody there that's still going kind of through the journey too, like I said, my results are getting better the longer that I do it. And so that's what's great about it. So you can see right up here on the board right now, I have put it where you can go and actually go and get subscribed to it and get going on it at that point. Once you do subscribe, you're going to get a text from me that says, hey, welcome to it. Anything you need, make sure you call me. I'm here for you. On those times that you're in the grocery store and you're going for that Snickers bar, you can call me. And I'm going to say, nope. Stay away from that Snickers bar at this point. I'll be here for you. And the fact that I went through it and I had that one, I have a little bit, because you were talking about inflammation a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to bring up that picture of me that shows it a little bit here. Let me go back and then we'll look at a couple of the other testimonies. So this was me in August of 2005. You see how round my face is? Mm-hmm. Much, and people will be like, yeah, that was inflammation. That was all what was going on with insulin resistance. Yep. Okay. You look at my face now. So like I said, A1C down from 8.5 to 6.5, CGM in range 99% of the time, which is great. No more chronic fatigue, sleeping 6 to 8 hours. That was another thing, wasn't sleeping. Okay. Neuropathy pain is down by about 70%. So if you got neuropathy, this is something definitely that's going to help with that. I can prove that by me at that point, and plus just the higher energy at that point. But there are plenty of people, and I wouldn't have enough time tonight to go through all of them, would we, Deb? That have actually had huge results across the board. This person here, yeah, I mean, look at where he was at, 407 pounds, 357, aging backwards. He's now at 257 pounds. 1 year later, he's down 157 pounds. Mm-hmm. And if you look at him, he physically looks younger. Yep. When you look at it, you're like, this wasn't, I don't want to call it a fountain of youth, but it kind of was a little bit for him. And as you go through and look at the pictures of everybody and what kind of results that they've had, it's really amazing.
It is. Blenda was a truck driver.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was a truck driver, and she makes it a point to tell us that when you're on the road, you can obviously know that there's not a good health food choice, right?
No, not at all. So
she was going to get her CDL, I believe, pulled, but she found this system, and now she's reversed her type 2 diabetes, and this is her result.
Wow. Yep. Absolutely. So Belinda, you got there. And like I said, being on the road, don't think that you can't work it out, because you can. Mm-hmm. Michael down 60 pounds. He's a big story, isn't he? I mean,
yeah, he is.
Story here. Look at 8.8 to 6.7, kind of like me. Mm-hmm. But you can see that there was a huge difference in him at that point. And I'm going backwards here. There we go. And then we've got, like I said, several people in there. I mean, I could go on for probably throughout the whole night with people and talking about, I mean, it's amazing. And every week, what do we get? So we have science calls every week. So that's another thing, is I can hook you up with a science call if you want to come and listen to the whole science behind it again with experts that we have on it. We have several doctors who are actually, Dr. Kinney is one of them. You'll see him on TikTok. You'll see him on several places. He was a physician for years and has quit this. And now he's just doing this now. He is helping people the natural way. There are a lot of nurse practitioners doing this now. They found out that they just felt better about it. There are actually doctors that are no longer doing their practices because of this, because they didn't like what was going on to begin with. They didn't like what the industry was doing. And now they've actually come a long way, and they've looked at it and they're doing it themselves. So it's something that really is helping just a ton of people. And like I said, I can't get them all up here. So once again, if you're interested, pop on here. If you have any questions, you can go to and send me an email at rex@beatthesugarlife.com, and I can answer some of those questions for you. If I don't know them, we have plenty of experts I can go to. If there's something you want to know about, whether is it going to work for you because you're doing this or that. Right now, pretty much you can take it with most, I think, all the medications that are out there. It's
No
safe.
interaction.
No interactions at all right now. So, but if you're concerned about something before you start, just let me know. And we'll definitely look into it at that point and get you an answer on it. Well, Deb, I really appreciate your time tonight. Every time you come on, it's so much fun. I learn more from you in like this hour than I learn all day long. So it's really great. So I do absolutely thank you for being on. We've had a good information tonight. Absolutely. And everybody else, like I said, once again, the link is up there. So if you want to get started on this program, see your health get much, much better very, very quickly, then get on this link right here and get yourself started. Thanks again. Thanks for everybody attending, and we'll see you again very soon.